Hi guys, today we're going to read chapter 3 in our story about Stevie Wonder, and then you're going to listen to a song called Sir Duke, which is still a very popular song, but there's a good chance you haven't heard this one, but it's still pretty funky and still pretty fun. Let's get started with chapter 3 of Stevie Wonder. Chapter 3, Little Stevie. Stevie walked into Motown Records on a September day in 1961 with his mother, John Glover, and Ronnie White. The signs above the door said Hitsville, USA. The truth was that Motown didn't have very many hits. Well, top-selling records, yeah. It was a young company trying to grow. When the man who founded Motown, Berry Gordy, heard Stevie audition, he believed he could help Stevie and Motown grow. The energy Stevie had, the feeling he brought to his songs, and the way people responded to him all convinced Mr. Gordy that Stevie could be a star. That's Mr. Gordy here. Mr. Gordy didn't really like to sign performers who were under 18 because there were strict laws about the hours that they could work, the number of days they could be away from home on tour, and the amount of time that they must spend on their schooling. But he knew Stevie's talent was worth making an exception. He decided that very day to make a studio he wanted to offer Stevie a contract with Motown Records. When you're a child, which means when you're under 18 and you're still legally a child, it's really hard for you to get a job just because there's really strict laws about how much a child can work, because we don't want you guys to work too hard, and there's big risks like what if you don't get enough time for school and you don't learn enough, or maybe you don't graduate because of it. So there's really strict child laws about how many hours you can spend working or performing if you're a singer. It took a few days to work out the details, but Stevie returned to Motown with Lula to sign his contract. He was officially a professional musician. Soon, Stevie was rushing over the recording studio at Motown every day after school. He spent most of his time there, more time than he did at home. Lula did not mind. She saw that the people at Motown took good care of Stevie. Clarence Paul worked with Stevie as his producer, and he was like a father to him. Ted Hall was hired as a tutor to make sure Stevie didn't fall behind in his studies, so they wanted to make sure that Stevie was keeping up in school. So there's him working with all the different people at the studio. Stevie would listen to B.B. King and other current stars in a small portable transistor radio on the bus on his way over to the studio. Then get to hear other Motown talent, such as the Temptations, the Supremes, Mary Wells, and Marvin Gaye performing live in the studio. Mr. Gordy liked to call his Motown performers a family. And if Motown was like a family, Stevie was their fun, and sometimes a little annoying, little brother. He enjoyed hanging around the other musicians, interrupting the recording sessions, and playing pranks. So there's one of them performing. You can kind of see little tiny Stevie back here in the background, probably about to play a prank on them. Stevie could imitate Berry Gordy's voice perfectly, so well that not even his secretary could tell the difference. Once, when the Motown boss was away on business, Stevie called Mr. Gordy's secretary and asked her to give Stevie a tape recorder when he came into the studio. That day, Stevie arrived and was handed the tape recorder. Because he was blind, Stevie couldn't see the red light that warned when a recording session was in progress. Sometimes, he accidentally walked in and ruined sessions for other musicians. But no one else could stay mad at Stevie for very long. He was so happy to be playing music at Motown that he was like a kid in a candy store. Only his candy was a recording studio. Hey, how do you do this? Stevie would ask the other performers. How do you do that? He wanted to learn everything that he could about becoming a better musician. Stevie was enthusiastic and almost always had a smile on his face. And he was talented too. More than once, someone at Motown remarked that little Stevie was a wonder. And the nickname just stuck, said Mr. Gordy. The Motown boss began promoting his new star as Little Stevie Wonder. So that's where our Stevie Wonder got his start. We're going to learn a little bit more about Stevie on the piano after we get back from break. So I hope you guys have an awesome winter break and a happy new year, and I will see you guys on January 4th, I think. All right, see you later.